For Lil Durk, the situation has only gotten more complex. Court documents have revealed that his name was connected to another homicide that occurred years ago. Considering that Durk is currently dealing with grave accusations, the timing couldn't be worse. Durk is now being linked to murders that the federal government is looking into, but most people had long forgotten. Another famous individual is Stephen Mack, who was shot and killed in 2022. It's not just that a pattern is starting to emerge with this new connection. Tragically, Octavia Redmond, the baby mama of OTF Jam, died earlier. How much is Durk involved in all of these incidents in 2024, and are they all connected? Is everything the rapper has worked so hard to create going to be ruined? Because this story will only get worse. Stay tuned. A new murkier murder case, the disturbing connection between the January 2022 murder of Stephen Mack and rapper Lil Durk, has taken a surprising turn. Mack was slain by gunfire outside the Young Peace Center in Roseland, according to Chicago police. As he left the building, he was singled out by two gunmen who intentionally struck him. Based on current allegations, Durk might have participated in the crime. Although Durk has not been charged with Max's murder, FBI documents state that he offered money to anyone who would kill Max gang members. Notwithstanding the gravity of these charges, the rapper's already challenging legal battle has taken on considerably more complexity. Another high-profile case involving Durk was heard in Los Angeles, where the judge rejected Durk's legal team's most recent plea to have him released on a $3.3 million bond, citing the gravity of the charges. Durk's name keeps coming up on social media, leading federal investigators to believe that his own post may be linked to Max's death. The reason this case is so explosive is that federal investigators are linking Durk to the events that followed Max's murder. He is accused by the prosecution of financing a murder-for-hire scheme against Quando Rondo, a musician. To prove it with obscure music and Instagram posts, Lil Durk shared a tale on Instagram shortly after the photo shoot, and it garnered considerable interest. His employees' photos were included in addition to the family's. Although the date and tone of the letter suggested otherwise, investigators have determined that it included more than just a barely concealed glee at Max's murder. Durk put a song out. The Fed is investigating that right now for perhaps mentioning Max's passing only a month later. They claim that the lyrics hint at what happened, even though Durk has never acknowledged any involvement. For those who do not know, the Gangster Disciples are one of Chicago's most notorious street and prison gangs. They have a lengthy history of violent conflicts, especially with the Black Disciples. According to court documents, the investigators' case was not just supported by social media and music. On the phone of one of the suspects in Max's murder, a text message was discovered that allegedly asked, "Did Durk give you that money?" suggesting a payment for the hit. According to reports, Mack is a member of the Gangster Disciples group. The Smashville, the way Lil Durk's music and social media were used in the federal prosecution, demonstrates that not everyone's fame shields them from their past. Why would Durk take such a risky public action step? Rumor has it that his relentless desire for vengeance was sparked by his brother's tragic death. As this piece is being written, Lil Durk remains in custody despite growing federal charges and new information in court regarding the validity of the evidence against him. Durk's brother, Dan Banks Jr., popularly known as the T-Thing, was brutally killed outside the Club O nightclub in Harvey, Illinois, on June 6, 2021. Just after 12:20 a.m. on a Saturday, the shooting occurred, shocking the music business and the streets of Chicago. Tension apparently existed before a brawl broke out outside the club after a Harvey police officer on patrol noticed someone carrying a weapon. It is unknown who fired the shot, but Ding was hit in the head, and Officer Mohammed was hurt during the shooting, adding to the confusion. But more carnage was to follow. Rumors of retaliation and the effect on Chicago's already fierce gang conflicts swiftly proliferated in the streets after Durk's humiliating loss. Authorities hypothesized that the shooting on West 155th Street, which occurred 2 hours later, might have been a retaliatory attack. A vital member of his only family, Durk VT was a pillar of his life and career. motion, and the streets will never forget him. After D-Thing was killed, rumors started to circulate about his response. Tragedies such as this were justified in the world Durk came from. Mac was then slain on January 7, 2022, in an ambush. According to FBI data, the murder was a planned act intended as vengeance for the death of D-Thing rather than an accident. According to the federal investigators, Durk planned Max's murder as part of a retaliation against the gangster disciples, who were suspected of being responsible for D-Thing's death. Antagonism between Durk's OTF team and gangster disciples organizations has long been a feature of the gang battles that have plagued Chicago streets for many years. According to federal authorities, Durk pledged to pay to get his brother Justice Street justice. When his brother was killed, the rapper went on a spree to exact revenge. Officials claim that this sparked a higher-level plot to kill Quizzo Rondo, a rival who was connected to the 2020 killing of Durk's close friend King Von. The situation of Durk and the camp, the charges continue to come one after another despite Durk's best efforts to stay ahead of them. What matters most is whether he can escape them or whether his gang violence eventually takes over the streets. According to speculations, Durk's own camp may have been the source of the flip that turned everything upside down. In 2022, Rondo's circle had only grown in size by the time Q's cousin Sava Robinson was killed. According to the feds, Durk organized a larger revenge scheme after losing both King Vol and Dang, and this was a part of it. According to court documents, Jam has allegedly been working with federal agents for years. Jam is a trusted member of Lil Durk's only family. This action was well considered and not a small betrayal. There have been rumors that an OTF member may have been wearing a wire and giving the government direct information. Before being released in 2020 after serving 12 years in jail for attempted murder, Jam is now being charged with giving crucial evidence that has Durk battling for his freedom. But speculations have it that Jam provided more than just accidental information. Everything in proving Durk's role in the design of the operation. This wasn't a random event for the authorities. Rather, it was a well-planned case, and Jam was supposedly one of their major informants.
12 years.
12
got
years.
out, interviewed, said he kept it real, brought him cars, gave him 50,000.
Right.
This. Made mention that ain't no smut on his name, he ain't never been a rat. Caught a gun case, but eventually he...
The actual reason for Jam's purported defection was gang and personal dynamics. According to reports, it all began when Jam's baby mom sought legal advice while juggling personal matters. When Durk apparently denied the request, Jam was not happy. Soon after, there were allegations that Jam was wearing a wire, recording conversations, and providing OT and Durk's authorities with important information. Do some research on OTF.
The OTF Jam.
I think we looked into him already.
He's the one that ate the cheese.
No way. No.
Durk's demise seemed to have been anticipated by other musicians, who quickly took advantage of it. In fact, they made the announcement of Durk's arrest about a year before it happened.
Just like the evidence they had on Shorty, and they had on Durk too, that you just paid to get your brother killed. How are you not in jail?
The matter heated up when, months later, a 15-year-old kid who had been directly linked to Redmond's murder was apprehended in Iowa. As he was being questioned, he allegedly revealed that Durk had planned the murder and named key OTF colleagues. Jam's baby mama, Octavia Redmond, was supposedly placed on a hit list by Durk in retaliation on July 19, 2024. In the middle of the day, Redmond was shot and died while delivering mail. Using clever camouflage, the shooter fled in a stolen car that was later found to have been burned to remove any traces of the crime. The alleged snitching was the reason for the murder, which served as a brutal reminder of what occurs when someone betrays Durk. Even after his rise to fame in hip-hop, he is continually drawn back to the streets, and the federal government is investigating his past. Among Durk's competitors in 2011 was the Black Disciples, one of the city's most notorious gangs. His upbringing in Inglewood, a community notoriously accused by the authorities of having a gang culture, had already exposed him to the stresses of the streets. It became difficult to distinguish between ambition and survival allegiance because of Durk's engagement with the gang's activities in his late teens. That year, when he was detained for weapons possession, authorities discovered a loaded firearm with a defaced serial number. Since the authorities learned of Durk's closer ties to the Black Disciples, this claim was extremely serious. Guns with altered serial numbers are considered street level 101 because they render them untraceable, which helps brutes avoid linking crimes to Durk. Durk spent some time in jail as a result of the charge, but it exposed the chaos in his life at the time. A product of his surroundings, he was a young parent attempting to make sense of his life and was enmeshed in a terrible cycle of street loyalty and gang codes. When Durk became a rap celebrity, his arrest in 2011 marked the start of a protracted legal battle. His lyrics, when he first began to make a name for himself in the music business, were full of allusions to the realities of street life and the gang lifestyle he was living. Law enforcement watched his moves because they saw them as more than just artistic ability, and the rap community welcomed his authenticity. Nonetheless, the arrest garnered media attention because it marked the beginning of the merging of his Durk street identity and new music career. He became well known and under continual scrutiny because of his association with the Black Disciples, which still haunts him today. Despite his rise to popularity as a rapper, the specter of his 2011 arrest and gang membership persisted, and investigators and prosecutors are prepared to invoke his prior affiliations in an effort to elevate him above the status of a mere rapper. Though it seemed like a long time ago, the gun charge started everything, including the challenges and celebrity. In 2013, Lil Durk was in the news again. In the early hours of the morning, Durk was already starting to get recognition in the Chicago rap scene. Durk was in the Englewood neighborhood when the cops came, which has witnessed a fair amount of gang-related street violence. They looked into a man flashing a pistol complaint and thought Durk was involved. In an effort to look calm, Durk reportedly put a loaded .4 revolver into a nearby car as the police came. Durk was charged with unlawful use of a weapon, a crime, as the moves were not overlooked and the authorities were able to recover the rifle. This was a major infraction given Durk's prior criminal record, which includes his 2011 arrest for possession of weapons, including a handgun with a defaced serial number. It was clear that the system was watching him even after he was able to lower it to a less serious charge. Durk's 2013 arrest highlighted the conflict in his life at the time. He was a young rapper closely associated with Chicago's gang culture and Chief Keef and the growing drill movement. More importantly, however, was how this arrest enhanced Durk's reputation with the police and confirmed that he was not merely a rapper, but rather a member of the Chicago gang scene, someone who wasn't above the mayhem and violence that led to Durk's brief incarceration following this charge due to the city's problems. It was a wake-up call in many ways, even if it wasn't his first or last incarceration. His career was ended by the arrest, which made him confront the choices he was making. His past engagement in gang violence undermines his case and paints him as a dangerous criminal who continues to commit violent crimes in spite of his efforts to improve his reputation. In August 2024, Lil Durk appeared on Instagram, looking more grounded than ever, which altered people's perceptions of him. Durk went on to say in his Instagram story that, as a Muslim, he doesn't gangbang. Instead of taking it personally, he asked his followers to see it as a new chapter in his life. He also said that he wanted to be perceived differently, emphasizing that all he wanted was to be accepted as a man, a dad, and a devout Muslim. It was more than just a remark. It was a change in tone, an admission that he was attempting to break out from the gang life that had been pursuing him for years. Durk stressed that it is difficult to dispute that his development and obligations were evident throughout this open and reflective time. He went on to say that while his music will always be a reflection of his life, it was more about improving himself for his family, fans, and himself than it was about celebrating violence or gang affiliation. Durk had been openly Muslim since 2020, but the turmoil and tragedy of the past several years seemed to have affected him differently. He lost both his close friend King Von and his brother DT Tang to gun violence. Durk talked about his treatment experience earlier in 2024. It was evident from his lack of speech that he had battled substance misuse and wished to be completely sober. According to him, the encounter changed his life and taught him that going to a treatment center didn't have to be something he had to hide or feel negative about. He was deeply affected by violence. He had been mourning their passing and seeing the extent to which that street energy kept drawing him into a never-ending cycle of suffering. His personal health problems also made him slow down and focus on what truly mattered, was essential to his journey towards peace. His priorities now were his family, avoiding disturbance and spreading hope. He was determined to stay on course and steer clear of negative trends forever. Durk's intense participation in the street culture, from which he is now distancing himself, complicates this transition. Distancing oneself from a life that has influenced your music and image can be difficult. Durk is making an effort to change his reputation as a rapper who is so strongly linked to the streets by disclosing his faith and his new path. A few days after Lil Durk received an honorary key from the hamlet of Broadview for his philanthropic efforts, he was arrested in Florida and immediately suffered harsh consequences. The decision was taken to combat legal misbehavior and to reflect the values of their nonprofit neighborhood heroes, the mayor said without holding back. Such a change is enormous as well as bold. His affirmation that he is ready to leave for his supporters and everyone caught in the same cycles he has fought to break free from. On October 18, Durk was commended for the work his Local Heroes Foundation was doing to support local children and underprivileged communities in what appears to be a public conflict between the rapper and the community. The foundation had been a wonderful manifestation of Durk's kindness, revealing a part of himself that was never shown. Through his foundation, which included mentorship programs and scholarships, Durk appeared to be attempting to strike a balance and offer hope to the same neighborhoods where he had previously sung about survival. But when the information about Durk's nighttime detention in the Quando Rondo case surfaced, things took a dramatic turn. Mayor Katrina Thompson of Broadview swiftly released a statement that severely damaged Durk's chances of receiving forgiveness. The public opinion of the citizens maintained even higher moral and ethical standards for conduct, she explained. She added the honorary key, and the relationship with local heroes was canceled because Broadview's association with Durk was no longer consistent with its principles. In addition to handling negative press, the community had to safeguard its reputation. In essence, the village wanted to assist Durk, and it couldn't let his escalating legal troubles get in the way. He made a conscious effort to separate himself from the drug life and the scandals that had dogged him for years, from dating to local, by working with local heroes. It couldn't have come at a worse moment. In support of her decision, the mayor said she owed it to the voters to safeguard Broadview's interests and preserve its ideals. The question of whether someone like Durk can truly overcome the shadow of their history is brought up by this aftermath. If they try to improve things, would a man who has seen and experienced things that most people can't even fully understand be accepted? Both his supporters and detractors say losing that partnership hurts his reputation and casts doubt on his efforts to close the gap between his past and his hopes for the future. It was predicated on Durk's attempt to revise his story in order to demonstrate his capacity for positive transformation. LilDurk's legal issues led Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson to deactivate the rapper's honorary key to the city. As Durk was arrested a few days later in Florida on charges of murder connected to more serious offenses, the public's outrage remains strong. Although he has not yet been proven guilty, Durk is currently facing some of the most serious charges of his life while incarcerated in Florida's Broward County Jail. Harsh proclamation that denied Durk the symbolic honor while highlighting the city's principles. Durk had received the key as a token of appreciation for his charitable endeavors and his service with his organization, the Neighborhood Heroes Foundation. It served as evidence of his development from a young man living on the streets of Englewood to one of Chicago's biggest stars giving back to the communities in which he grew up. The mayor and other municipal officials quickly realized, however, that they could not continue to use Durk as a public spokesperson for Chicago when the allegation was made public. The city of Chicago holds its officials to the highest standards, Johnson stated, even if everyone has the right to the presumption of innocence in a court of law. The city decided to revoke the honorary key that had previously been given to Durk, whose real name is Mr. Banks, because the charges against him do not reflect the values the city upholds. After saying, "I can explain this," by avoiding actions that betray the community, the mayor underlined how important it is to maintain its respect and trust. Although the decision to remove the award was not made hastily, it was thought necessary to safeguard the city's beliefs and prestige. The timing couldn't have been worse. Only a few weeks before, Neighborhood Heroes, a group that has provided funding for underprivileged communities' kids' programs, scholarships, and even grocery giveaways, had recognized Durk for his work in Chicago. The key to the city, Mayor Johnson continued, is a symbol of honesty and constructive leadership and goes beyond simple ceremonial use. There was a moment when Durk seemed to have succeeded in drawing attention away from his problematic history and toward his attempts to motivate change. But his goodwill swiftly vanished with his arrest and the charges that followed, including allegations that he tried to run away from the country. While some claimed that the mayor's action was important to safeguard Chicago's reputation, others countered that the city hurried too quickly to distance itself because Durk has not been found guilty. People on social media and in the community immediately reacted by questioning why Durk had been given the key in the first place, considering even while his music and philanthropic work have had a significant influence, his reported gang ties and protracted legal issues show how difficult it is for famous people to move on from their past, especially when it still haunts them in real life. Growing murder charges against H might destroy the rapper's personal freedom and career, and LilDurk's legal team is getting ready for the battle of their lives. Allegedly, he participated in a violent scheme to exact revenge on Quando Rondo and his crew. However, the evidence grows, making the case more difficult to defend, and Durk may be forced to spend the rest of his life in prison. He may even face a RICO case from prosecutors who paint the OTF team as a criminal organization rather than a record company. The red flags were there much earlier, but 50 Cent attempted to make Durk defensive about the dangers posed by others. 50 Cent asked Lil Durk if the crew was real while they were in New York. This conversation was described by him in an interview on The Breakfast Club. Advised Durk to be cautious and keep a careful eye on them, expressing concern about how rapidly loyalty may shift on the streets. Durk seemed to note the caution, remembering a recent unpleasant experience when someone had abruptly visited his home. His address was meant to remain private, so Durk questioned how someone had obtained it. This conversation demonstrated that Durk wasn't entirely discounting 50's prudence because he was beginning to doubt the dependability of people in his social group. Durk's legal cases today. There were suspicions on social media that hip-hop critic DJ Academic was spying on federal investigators after he posted a picture of OTF member Jam supposedly eating McDonald's in an interrogation chamber. The rapper was arrested on charges of murder for hire and conspiracy in connection with the 2022 shooting death of Quando Rondo's cousin El Poo, which authorities said was retaliation for the death of King Val. Durk was arrested along with 5 other OTF members. The prosecution claimed that Durk's actions were beyond business and were very personal. They have attributed King Von's death in 2020 to Durk's desire for vengeance following the loss of his close friend in a violent altercation involving Rondo's camp. Officials are developing a story in the federal case against Durk that he is the leader of a terrorist network that does more than just finance the attack. The fact that Durk is presented as a music collector makes the legal case much more difficult to defend. In an effort to distance the man from the image, Durk's lawyers argue that his music and harsh attitude are not real reflections of who he is. The defense is preparing to vigorously contest the evidence, raising questions about how things like money transfers or ambiguous text exchanges can truly demonstrate his intent to commit murder.
Lil Durk appeared in court where a judge ruled there was enough evidence for him to go to trial.
Additionally, they point out that Durk's notoriety makes him a possible target. particularly in light of the criticism he has received for his controversial background. But things are still not looking good since prosecutors are concentrating a lot of emphasis on what they say is digital proof of text that Durk and his OTF team exchanged regarding preparation and travel funds. In federal cases like this one, the conviction rate should not be taken lightly. If that information turns out to be true, it might be a major setback, making it harder for his side to deny that he is being falsely accused. It's not only about Durk getting jailed, it's about his whole legacy. By breaking his ties to the streets and engaging in charitable endeavors through his local Heroes Foundation, he has attempted to enhance his reputation throughout the years. He has made contributions to youth initiatives led by marginalized communities and made an effort to show that he might serve as a positive example. But today, all of that is being superseded by these claims. Even before the trial starts, there is already a lot of impact. Prizes have been revoked, his charitable associations have been suspended, and public support is. Even Durk's biggest fans are starting to question whether the man behind the microphone is truly isolated from the society he has so heroically fought to escape as the charges get increasingly serious. His fans, who have stood by him during previous legal troubles and who trusted in his resilience and metamorphosis, would be hurt by this. In court, his defense team will have a difficult job since they have to not only point out weaknesses in the prosecution's evidence, but also refute the popular notion that this might be the most difficult battle a rapper who has achieved success by overcoming adversity has ever faced. We appreciate you viewing, and if you enjoyed this video, please click on any of the others to view more of our channel's material. Remember to click the bell icon for more likes and subscriptions. As the trial approaches, Durk is a master manipulator. Pressure is increasing. There are 3 things at risk: Durk's legacy, his career, and his freedom.